So today I felt like sharing the story of how I got my first world premiere, which happens to be Tales of Olympus, a Greek myth musical. Tales of Olympus had its world premiere in 2012 at Bay Area Children's Theatre, but the story of how we got to that point actually begins a few years earlier. Now, I'm not 100% clear on the exact dates, but once upon a time I was a teaching artist with Bay Area Children's Theatre. And I had started out as a music director for their young performers groups, that is kind of in the upper elementary range, out in San Ramon, which is a suburb of the Bay Area. And after having music directed for them for that particular age group a couple times, they were looking to expand their San Ramon classes to include a middle school class. As this would be the first time that they would be doing this middle school class, they decided to commission me to essentially stitch together a show that consisted of existing musical theater numbers with the spoken portions written by yours truly. And I did this for two of their sessions, a fall session and a spring session. I believe the first one was called Beasts of Broadway and featured songs that were animal or creature themed. And the second one was called Broadway Cafe, which loosely followed shows by decade and took place in a cafe where all the characters broke out and sang. So technically speaking, Beasts of Broadway was my first world premiere, though not on the professional level. I mean, technically speaking, before that, I did write a full-length musical in college that was all kind of just done with my group of friends at the time. Maybe I'll share about that at another date, but we're just going to focus on the professional world premiere. I believe as a result of Beasts of Broadway and Broadway Cafe, Bay Area Children's Theatre Executive Artistic Director Nina Meehan saw potential in me writing for their main stage, and honestly, that's how that conversation started. Now, interestingly, it started with Nina approaching me with a potential commission to adapt the Greek myth about King Midas. So she asked me to submit a proposal, which I excitedly did, and I drafted and recorded a few demos of some potential songs. I did previously do a video about making proposals for theater, and you can check that out here. So I submitted my proposal, and Nina was very excited, and it looked like things were good to go for Midas the musical. That is until she came back to me and said that she thinks the commission would be more successful if it were actually about a broader range of Greek myths. And to her credit, I think she was right. That's where the idea came up of potentially fusing the world of Greek mythology with a sort of Schoolhouse Rock style presentation, and hence Tales of Olympus was born. I believe I must have done another kind of proposal for Nina, but basically by around, I want to say early 2011, a commission was solidified and we had an eye towards a world premiere of Tales of Olympus in late 2012. And then came a active search for funding, and we were able to secure a few grants in order to fund my work on the show. The next major step was to actually do a workshop of my first draft in the summer of 2012, and then we entered into rehearsals, I believe, in October of 2012 for a December world premiere. And the show has seen some modest success since then. Right after we did the world premiere production, we took the show on the road to local Bay Area schools. There was also a Chicago area touring production that occurred pretty quickly after the world premiere. I created a junior performers version that has been put up by young actor groups throughout the Bay Area as well. And most recently, there was a production at the Children's Museum of Indianapolis. A bit of a sidebar, that original Midas idea did come to fruition this year with the world premiere of Gold, the Midas musical. And that's because the story that I had worked on for the original commission stayed with me to the point where somewhere, I believe in 2016, I decided to break open that old draft and see if I could actually finish it. Now, how any of us who are trying to do this writing thing, playwriting, musical theater writing, how many of us get to our first world premiere is going to look different. My path happened to involve the fact that I was working for this theater company in one capacity, and then was able to show them what I could do as a writer, which led to interest for their main stage. And Bay Area Children's Theater, I really have considered a partner of mine, and they have enabled me to have several world premieres at their company because we have developed a strong relationship. So no matter how you get to your first world premiere, I think the thing that may be common about any of the paths to get there will be the people that you meet along the way. I could not have sat down at my desk back in 2008 and planned out exactly how I was going to get to my world premiere, but I was doing the work of getting myself out there, being in the theater community, making sure to mention that I was working on my writing, and then the cards started to line up. Now, do all cards line up magically? No, of course not. Cards will line up when they line up, and then you'll need to line up some more cards later. I think what's tricky is in the retelling of this story, it kind of belies the fact of the work that was going on and the doubt that was going on and the lack of experience that I had. So my story isn't one of, I just knew how to do everything and it was great and it was perfect and it all worked out. I think the Beasts of Broadway and the Broadway Cafe opportunities are evidence of the fact that those were kind of trials for me in order to test out what I could do as a writer. And even now, 7 years after the world premiere of Tales of Olympus, there are things that I see about how I wrote that show that I don't think I would do today, just because I was a fresher, younger writer. And my aesthetic is going to keep evolving to the point where 7 years from now, if I were to look at what I've written today, I would probably say that I won't write in the same way. And not that every video of mine has to have a word of advice, but if it's any kind of encouragement, keep doing the work that you're doing, keep meeting people in the theater world around you, and you never know what kind of opportunities might come up. All right, that'll be it for today. Thanks for watching. I will see you next week.